As you sleep safely in your bed, imagine the deep silence of a hospital corridor. This is a place where every corner whispers stories filled with hope and despair. But what if those stories are not just whispers? What if those walls not only hear, but also hold the experiences they have witnessed? Today, I will share with you 3 true hospital horror stories, witnessed by an ambulance driver, a night watchman, and a nurse. These are tales of unimaginable events, moments that leave you speechless, and bonds that even death cannot sever. Have you ever wondered? Sometimes, when you're too late to save someone, perhaps someone else is trying to save you. As you listen to the story of a ghostly car roaming the parking lot, a mysterious box a nurse dared not open, and a grandmother's final call from beyond the grave, you'll push the boundaries of everything you thought you knew. These stories will reveal the secrets hidden behind hospital walls, and why some souls can't find peace. Sit back, and don't take your ears off this for a moment. Story 1. The Secret of Room 217. I was working on that floor of the internal medicine ward at General Hospital, where every corner smelled of hospital, and the gray walls were filled with stories of hope and despair. I had spent 6 years in this profession. I had seen countless faces and thousands of stories. But nothing had prepared me for the box I encountered that Tuesday morning in room 217, bearing the dust of time. This ordinary object would ignite one of the strangest, most profound experiences of my life. When I went out for my morning routine checks, my first stop was room 217. Here lay Mr. Peterson, a 68-year-old man who was quiet and gentle, admitted for a blood sugar check. He was the typical profile of an elderly patient who rarely caused any trouble. When I entered the room, I saw him sleeping restlessly in his bed. My attention was drawn to a box on the nightstand. It was made of dark, weathered wood, its surface cracked from years of use. 2 words and a date were carefully carved into it. Property of Eleanor Peterson and 1952. What was such an old and personal-looking item doing in a hospital room? When Mr. Peterson woke up, I pointed to the box with my eyes and asked curiously, "Is this yours?" His gaze immediately shifted to the box, and his expression hardened. "Yes," he said, his voice dry and tense. "It's my wife, Eleanor's box. She left it to me before she passed away, and warned me, don't open it. Since that day, for 15 years, I haven't broken my promise." His voice trembled as he finished speaking, and there was a heavy shadow in his eyes. "Do you know what's inside?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity. He shook his head. "I have no idea." Eleanor was a mysterious woman, maybe old family memories, photographs. But she told me not to open it, and I kept my word. The very existence of the box deeply unsettled him. I could feel it. Throughout the day, I wondered what might be inside the box. In moments when I wasn't paying attention, I thought I heard a faint, metallic clinking sound coming from inside. Mr. Peterson also seemed uneasy every time he looked at the box, as if he were trying to protect a secret with his eyes. I asked my nurse friend Lisa, who was on the night shift, "Did you see the box in 217? Her answer surprised me. "Yes, but something strange happened. It was on the nightstand in the morning, now it's by the window. Did someone move it?" We talked to everyone. No one had touched it. The box had moved on its own, as if there was life inside it. Around midnight, at 11:30, I went back into the room to check on Mr. Peterson. He was restless even in his sleep, and the box had moved again. This time it was by the side of the bed, as if trying to touch him. "Mr. Peterson, wake up," I whispered. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the box, and his face turned pale. "Did you move it?" I asked. "No," he replied in a trembling voice. "Eleanor's spirit must be restless. This box, this secret. Maybe I need to open it now." The fear in his voice mingled with his indecision. "Do you want to open it?" "I can stay with you," I said. She paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and made a decision. "Yes," she said firmly. "I want to know what Eleanor was hiding. 15 years is enough." She took the box with trembling hands. There was a small, old lock on it. The lock, unable to withstand the corrosive power of time, opened easily with a single movement. He slowly lifted the lid. Inside were old letters, faded photographs, and a small diary. The first photograph he looked at was of Eleanor in her youth. "How beautiful she was," he whispered. Then he picked up the diary. The first page began, "To my beloved James." I knew Mr. Peterson's name was John. He paused for a moment, his eyes widening. "Who is James?" he muttered. As he continued reading the diary, the expression on his face changed from surprise to deep sadness. Eleanor's first love. She had a boyfriend named James before she got married, he said. He died in the war. She never mentioned it to me. The letters confirmed this truth. They were all written by James to Eleanor, filled with deep love. The final lines of the last letter deeply moved Mr. Peterson. "My dear Eleanor, if I cannot return, keep these letters. If you marry someone else one day, show them to him as well. Our love was real, but I want her to be happy too. James." Mr. Peterson began to cry, a few tears streaming down his aged cheeks. Eleanor trusted me. She could have shared this secret. Why did she keep it? He thought about it for a long time that night. The next morning, his expression was more serene. "I understand Eleanor better now," he said. "This box was her past. Perhaps the moment she was ready to share this secret with me, death severed the bond between us. Now, perhaps, she wanted to share it herself. And from that moment on, the box never moved again." A week later, Mr. Peterson came to the hospital for a checkup. When I saw him, I shuddered. He didn't look peaceful. Instead, his face was blank. In his eyes, there was a void, as if you were looking into the deepest recesses of a soul. His voice was hoarse and monotonous as he spoke. "I spoke to Eleanor," he said. "At her grave, I mentioned James. I told her I knew now." "Are you okay now?" I asked. He shook his head. "I'm fine. The box is fine too." As soon as he finished speaking, a cold wind swept through the room, and the door creaked open and closed. "Is the box still moving?" I asked, fearfully. "No," he said. "It's at home now, next to my bed." Eleanor's scent is spreading throughout the room, and James's, his eyes were wide open. I thought Eleanor had found peace, but I guess she never forgave James. That box, ... That box isn't Eleanor's anymore. It's James's now. I never saw Mr. Peterson again after that day. No one knew what had happened. A nurse friend whispered that he had been found lifeless in his bed. The box was no longer on the nightstand. Only fresh-cut flowers remained, white lilies, said to be James's gift, Eleanor's favorite. Story 2. The silent scream in the parking lot. In the vast, concrete parking lot of City Medical Center, my life was intertwined with the darkness and solitude of the night. As the night watchman of this 500-car lot, I spent my shifts in routine silence. Usually, there were only a few cars arriving in emergencies or late-night staff vehicles. The parking lot fell into a deep sleep throughout the night. However, on that Friday night, the air felt heavier than usual. By 11 p.m., the parking lot had emptied out completely. Sitting in the security booth, watching the images of 20 to 30 cars, I felt as though I were watching a movie. Everything was so quiet that even the slightest movement caught my eye. And at that very moment, in the far corner of Section D, an old model navy blue sedan came into view on the camera's screen. The license plate was unreadable, but the scratches on its body and the faded color revealed its age. This car had never been here before. Curious, I walked outside towards Section D. However, there was no sign of the car in the parking lot. There was only darkness and empty parking spaces. My eyes must be deceiving me, I thought, considering the possibility of a monitor malfunction. When I returned to the booth, the image on the monitor was still the same. The blue sedan was parked at the corner of Section D, as if challenging me. At 1:15 a.m., the car on the monitor suddenly began to move. It moved very slowly, almost gliding across the parking lot. It was as if a ghostly driver was controlling it. When I looked outside, there was still nothing there. As I watched this strange dance, the car moved toward the hospital's emergency room entrance and stopped there. In the camera feed, the doors opened, and a faint, blurry figure seemed to emerge from inside. It looked like an old woman, but I couldn't be sure. Instinctively, I called the emergency room. Nurse Karen's voice sounded sleepy. "Did a new patient arrive?" I asked. "No," "Why do you ask?" she replied. "I think I sensed some activity in the parking lot." Karen's response, "There's no one here, it's a very quiet night," made me even more uneasy. I looked at the cameras again. The car was still at the emergency room entrance, but in reality, there was no car there. At 2 a.m., the blue sedan continued to circle the parking lot. It seemed to be desperately searching for an empty spot, moving from one section to another without stopping. This regular yet meaningless movement made me increasingly suspicious. This wasn't a technical glitch. It was a message. I decided to look through old security reports on the computer. I searched for strange occurrences in the parking lot, and a report written 6 months ago popped up. When I read the details, my heart nearly stopped. Martha Williams, 72 years old, suffered a heart attack and died in her car in the parking lot. Blue sedan, license plate XYZ1952. She died before emergency services could arrive. The car in the image was exactly that one, Martha Williams' car. But she had died 6 months earlier. At 2:30 a.m., the car stopped again at the emergency room entrance, this time waiting longer. It seemed as though someone was trying to get a patient out. I waited for a figure to emerge from inside, but no one appeared. Only the doors were open. I called Dr. Rodriguez, the on-call doctor. "Doctor, was there a patient named Martha Williams 6 months ago?" I asked. "I remember Martha," he said. "It was a very tragic incident. Her son Jack was furious because no one had heard his mother's cries for help. Unfortunately, the security booth was too far away, and we couldn't hear her. And at that moment, the blue sedan pulled away from the emergency room door and began moving toward the security booth. It seemed as though it was coming to see me. My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my chest. The car stopped right in front of the booth. In the camera footage, the door opened, and that blurry female figure stepped out. She walked slowly toward the booth. When I looked outside, there was no one there. At that moment, I understood. Martha had screamed for help that night, but no one had heard her. Now, even after 6 months had passed, she was still hoping for help. We were too late. My eyes were fixed on the camera. "Martha," I whispered, feeling my voice tremble. "If you can hear me, I'm sorry. We couldn't help you that night. Find peace now." As soon as my words ended, the car slowly backed up and drove toward the parking lot exit, never to return. When I explained the situation to the security chief the next morning, he simply shook his head. "Martha's story is a tragedy forgotten here," he said. "Perhaps she still hasn't found peace with the sense of injustice." He was right. Martha had come to write the end of her own story. I finished my work that night and returned home, never to work in the parking lot again. But I always carried the ghost of that blue sedan in the back of my mind. Sometimes, in the mirror of my own car, I felt like I saw a light behind me. That blue car, visible for only a few seconds, with the license plate XYZ1952. And when I looked out the window, I saw no one in the parking lot. Only the darkness of the night and the echo of a scream, ... Martha's scream. A scream that now echoed, not just in the parking lot, but everywhere. Story 3. The Final Call. During the 12 years I spent in the ambulance at Metro General Hospital, I had witnessed countless emergencies. I had raced against time thousands of times on that fine line between life and death. But the call that came that night would draw me not only into a case, but also into the heart of a supernatural connection. Indeed, sometimes the final moments become the last chances. At 10:45 p.m., the sirens fell silent, and the radio crackled. 8-year-old boy, high fever, seizures. Address, 1247 Oak Street. My partner Nancy and I exchanged glances. Pediatric cases always kept us on edge. Without a moment's hesitation, we set off. When we arrived at the address, 35-year-old David Martinez was waiting at the door, his face as white as a sheet. "My son Michael is very sick. His fever is 40 degrees. He can't speak. Please hurry," he pleaded. When I saw Michael, I understood how justified David's fear was. He was 8 years old, small and frail, his body trembling. The fever was consuming him. His consciousness was completely clouded. "We need to get to the hospital immediately," I told David. On the way, Michael's condition worsened. He was having trouble breathing, and his pulse was racing. While Nancy opened an IV and administered fluids, I drove as fast as I could to the hospital. David was sitting in the back seat, holding his son's hand tightly. "Hang in there, Michael. The doctors will fix you up," he whispered, but I could sense the helpless fear in his voice. The fear that fathers feel in moments like this is a pain beyond words. 10 minutes before we reached the hospital, Michael lost consciousness completely. His eyes closed, and he wasn't responding. "His pulse is very weak," Nancy shouted. I turned on the siren, and we rushed into the hospital with one last effort. Dr. Carter, waiting at the emergency room door, took Michael on a stretcher and rushed inside. David followed them. As Nancy and I parked the ambulance, I felt we were at the beginning of a hopeless wait. At 11:30 p.m., David came out, his eyes tearful. "The doctors are doing everything they can, but we may have been too late," he said in a trembling voice. "I wish I had noticed sooner. He just looked tired this afternoon." I tried to comfort David. "Fevers rise very quickly in children. You did everything you could," but he blamed himself. "My wife was at work, and I was home alone. I should have been more careful." At 12:15 a.m., Dr. Carter came to David's side. "Michael's condition has stabilized," he said. "We suspect meningitis, but we started antibiotic treatment immediately. The critical period has passed, but he needs to stay in intensive care." David breathed a sigh of relief. "Will he be okay?" he asked. "Thanks to the early intervention, his chances are high. If you had waited a few more hours, the outcome could have been very different," said Dr. Carter. David turned to us with tears in his eyes and said, "Thank you. If it weren't for you, ... 2 days later, David came to the hospital to find us. "Michael is recovering," he said, with a big smile on his face. "The doctors say there will be no permanent damage. It's all thanks to your quick intervention." "You were the one who noticed," I said. "If he had fallen asleep that night, by the time you woke up in the morning, it might have been too late for everything." David paused for a moment, his smile freezing on his face. "Actually, something very strange happened," he said. "At 10 p.m., Michael was asleep. Suddenly I woke up, as if someone had woken me up." "Who woke you up?" I asked curiously. "I don't know," he said. "I saw my mother in my dream. She passed away 3 years ago. She was saying, 'David, look after Michael.' So I got up and noticed the fire then." These words sent shivers down my spine. "Did your mother love Michael very much?" I asked. "Madly," he replied. "She was so happy when Michael was born. She always said, 'My grandson.' Michael was very sad when she passed away." "Maybe your mother was protecting Michael that night," I said. A smile spread across David's face. "I think so too. My mother always protected her family. It seems that even death couldn't stop that love." A week later, David and Michael came back to the hospital. Michael was smiling at us, a cheerful and healthy child. "Thank you," he said in his little voice, "for saving me." "Do you remember your grandmother?" I asked. Michael's eyes lit up. "Yes, I saw her in a dream. She said, 'Don't be afraid. I'll tell your father you're sick.' I guess she really did." David and I looked at each other. This was no coincidence. The grandmother had protected her grandson. She had warned David and calmed Michael down. But this wasn't the end of the story. A few weeks later, one night, I was startled by a call from David. His voice was trembling. "She's back," he whispered. "Who's back?" "David, who?" I asked. "My mother, ... my grandmother. She's appearing in my dreams. She's not saying, 'Protect Michael' anymore. She's saying, 'Take me with you. Please help.'" The next morning, David and Michael's lifeless bodies were found in the locked house. In their hands was a toy car they had clung to until the very end. The car was an ambulance that David's mother had given him when he was a child. That day, I realized that some protectors cling to those they protect as much as they protect them. And sometimes, the final call is not a plea for help, but a call for surrender. That day, I listened to the silence of an empty house left behind by a family, and within that silence, I heard the restless whisper of a grandmother.